What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon. This is the Next Week's Adventure YouTube channel, and I appreciate y'all joining in today. So this project, it took a little time. As you can see, if you're a normal subscriber, you'll know that my videos usually come out every couple weeks. This one, we're almost going on a month now. Ran into a few problems with it, had to do some corrections, wanted to make sure I got all the good details out to all you guys that are thinking about putting rear discs on your Cherokee. So normally people usually drop out on these videos. Don't worry, it's fine. It's in the statistics. I see it all the time. After about 30 seconds to a minute, a bunch of you guys leave. So what we're going to do in this video is the first half of the video is going to be all the parts you're going to need and the details on why you're going to need them. And then the second half of the video will just be the footage of me actually installing the kit. So if you need to see what went wrong or what does what, hang around for the second part. Other than that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow along. Tons of videos on the Jeep. This winter, we're going to go full in on the Mustang. So Jeep will be set up for camping. Mustang's going to be in here in the heated garage so we can do some work on it. So I did learn a few things doing this kit, okay? Normally when I do this kind of stuff, I'll jump on, just search anything I can find and get all the information I can gather, places that sell it, prices, all that kind of good stuff. So what I did learn about this is, normally I'd check Quadratec first, and then I'll do like Summit Racing, Jags, and then I'll break down to see if Amazon has something, and then I'll also go deep down and see like what local places might have something, like off-road shops. So through the tech forums and all that, I've seen that the main problems with this kit is the original proportioning valve that comes on the Cherokees, and also the emergency brake cable. So as far as the proportioning valve goes, look, there's 100 different ways you can do this kit. You can go to junkyards, you can get all the parts you need from there. I wasn't looking to do that, okay? There's too many mixed matched parts that kind of go into this. There's like Jeep Liberty stuff, there's the Grand Cherokee stuff. It's too much. I wanted a whole kit that I could just basically bolt onto this thing and really just kind of go to town with. So you know me on most of my stuff, like in my last video when I did the front brakes, I went to O'Reilly's and got the parts I need because everything would be under a warranty, which is something I really like, because if you're out on a trail and something goes wrong, you can go right into a store, get your part, and you're back on the road. Problem with this is, this kit, if I pieced it out through like O'Reilly's, AutoZone, or whatever, it was just going to be way too much money to do it. So I found a kit that you could just bolt everything on. It's all in there. Now, if I have a problem with something later on, unfortunately then I will have to go to the parts store, buy a part, but then it'll be under a warranty. But as for right now, we're just gonna go fingers crossed on this, that everything in there works. So going back to Quadratec, when I found their kit online, it's advertised as a Jeep Cherokee rear disc brake conversion kit, and it's sold through Crown Automotive. So it's a Crown Automotive kit. So then I started digging around and I found that Jags was actually the cheapest to get this kit. Now it didn't say anything about being a Crown Automotive kit. It just said it was a rear disc brake conversion kit. Didn't say who made it. But they offered a lot of promo deals. So if you signed up for their newsletters, emails, and all that stuff off, they were willing to take off more money off of the kit, which dropped this kit down to the low $500 range, whereas most places were in between $600 and $800. Now I did see that it was either TerraFlex or Rubicon Express, I believe. I think it was TerraFlex. They offer the same kit, but it's a freaking ton more money, which I don't know. I'm a huge fan of TerraFlex or Rubicon Express, love them both, but I'd like to know what makes their kit so different than these other kits. So I went ahead and ordered the kit through Jags, and when it showed up, to my surprise, it was actually a Crown Automotive kit. So whether you buy it from Jags or anywhere else, or Quadratec, you're getting the same kit. So the kit does come with everything. It comes with new rotors, new calipers, all the hardware, the backing plates, the e-brake assemblies. So the things that you will need to get are e-brake cables, and you will have to modify either your factory brake lines or you can buy new ones. Now, I usually get all my brake lines through inlinetube.com. Again, not affiliated with them, but they offer pre-bent tubing for a lot of variety of vehicles. The problem with this kit is I jumped on there and I bought a set of rear brake lines for a Grand Cherokee with four-wheel disc brakes. And I was under the impression thinking that, well, this will work great because Jeep Cherokee, I want the rear brake disc brakes, I can just bolt this thing on and we're good to go. It completely missed my brain that the Grand Cherokees have rear coil springs. So the way those brake lines run is totally different. So do not go on there and buy those because they're not the right ones. Now I've gone through and seen all the different ways of modifying the brake lines and doing this and doing that, and it is the best, easiest way to do it is just to take your factory lines, or you can make new ones. I wound up making a new one because I just had to do it that way because I wanted to run it kind of different than what I saw everybody else doing. So if making brake lines and tubing flares and all that isn't your thing, find somebody or a place that will do it for you, because it's easy, but it's not easy. I actually broke 2 of the double flaring kits from Harbor Freight Tools, and I've tried the $500 pneumatic, brake line fitting tool. I can't get it to work. I seem to have better luck with the cheap $30 one from Harbor Freight. And then when I'm done with it, I usually just wind up throwing it away because it's broken, and I just go buy another one. You're just going to have to modify your original ones. I've seen them where they just loop them down and then come up and then the hose goes in. I did mine up and over the leaf spring, but as far as buying a set, just modify your own. It's just the easiest way to do it. You can kind of mount it however you want, whether you do it like I did in my video or you do it like a ton of other people are doing all over the internet. So save your money. Don't get the new brake lines unless you want to replace them. Then do that, or just make your own. So the other big hang up, emergency brake cables. So the reason it's a problem is because the ends that actually hook onto the brakes themselves are different from the factory XJ brake lines. So me being the complete idiot, same thing like what I did with the brake lines, I went on Quadratec and I found emergency brake cables for a Grand Cherokee with rear discs, and I went ahead and ordered them. The problem with that again is the routing that it takes. So the cables run differently between the XJs and the Grand Cherokees. So that means the lengths are not correct. So when they showed up and I slid underneath there to put them in, they didn't work. But I went back onto Quadratec, returned those, did some more digging, sent out some emails, and I found out that they actually have the emergency brake cables that are factory fit with the correct ends on them. So I will put a little picture of it right here showing the part numbers and the cables so that you can go on there and order the correct ones, because basically all it is, it's the factory XJ emergency brake cable with the different end on it, and it hooks right on. Now I have had some problems trying to get it in adjustment. Adjusting the e-brake cables has never been my thing. I'm trying to make sure there's enough tension, and there's not, but I've got them pretty close, and with a few more adjustments it will work perfect. So on that one there's a million ways you can do it. I've seen people zip tie the end of the cable from the factory XJ1 onto the new disc brakes. I've seen people use the metal clamps and clamp it on there. That's not really my thing. I'm not looking to try to rig up an emergency brake system. So having Quadratec selling both the e-brake cables with the correct fittings on them, it just eliminates any worry about yanking that e-brake if something goes wrong and zip ties or metal brackets falling off and crashing into a tree. But you can do it however you want. Like I said, there's a million ways to do this. I just prefer doing it this way because it's a brand new e-brake cable with the correct fittings on it, and it just bolts right on. So one of the third problems I saw with doing this is the proportioning valve itself. I've read numerous group messages that say that the factory XJ proportioning valve is perfect and you can drive down the road and you can lock them up and everything works great. And then I've also heard people say, no, it doesn't, it's bogus, it's crap. You need to get the guts out of a Grand Cherokee proportioning valve and put it in, and then you can drive it around, and then you can lock up the brakes, and then you can do this and that. And I've also heard people say that that's bull crap. So I can tell you this, when I had finally put this kit in, took it out for its first test drive, cruising around town, doing slow stops, doing quick stops, the factory XJ proportioning valve, it does work. The problem is, it literally felt like the stock brakes. It felt like the fronts were doing all the work and the rears were just kind of there, just hanging out for the party. Yes, You can put this kit on and you can keep the factory XJ proportioning valve on there and you will have brakes. Will you have super awesome brakes? No. It just felt like factory and I was kind of disappointed. But then I knew that this proportioning valve could be an issue. So of course then I jumped online and I started looking around to try to find either the guts to a Grand Cherokee proportioning valve or just get the entire proportioning valve, and I couldn't find it. That was my big problem, and I was kind of in a panic thinking, well, I just did all this work, now the damn thing doesn't even feel any different. And a lot of people keep saying, go to a junkyard, pull this out, pull it. I'm not going to a junkyard. I'm not downing you for going to a junkyard. But if you go to a junkyard, how do you know that that part is even worth the crap anyway? And then if it isn't, you got to take it back and then hound them to try to get your money back or get another one. And the other problem is, quite a few junkyards around my area, they don't have these things. A couple of them had Grand Cherokees, but they didn't have the rear disc brakes. They had disc drum, or the axle was already gone, or the whole entire engine compartment was already gone. So really, I was kind of stuck. So I talked to a few people, talked to my brother who's also big time mechanic, knows what the hell he's talking about, and he advised me, hey, why don't you look at getting a manual proportioning valve from like Willwood or something, because that way you can actually fine tune the brake bias between the fronts and the rears, and it's going to alleviate any issue with that factory proportioning valve. So I went ahead and I jumped on Amazon and I went on all the Jegs and Summit and all that. I found the Willwood proportioning valve. It was about $105. Luckily for me, if you go on Amazon and you type in the Willwood part number, you get the fake version, which is only $32. So in true fashion of the channel, we went with the Amazon special fake brand for $32. Running all the brake lines to that is definitely an adventure in its own. I don't really have the expertise in that. It is a little bit above my pay grade, but I took my time, spent all day just yesterday making all the lines to it, flaring the ends, and damn it, I got it figured out, and we got it on there. Now, if your Jeep has ABS, factory ABS, a lot of these companies had listed in there that it will not work with ABS systems. Mine had ABS, but it didn't work. So through the process of doing a couple upgrades, I actually removed the entire ABS system out of mine. So that's why I'm able to do this. So if you have ABS and it does work, I don't think you're going to be able to do this swap, or at least not be able to do this swap without some kind of complications. So after getting the whole proportioning valve put in, the way I set it up was I turned the screw all the way in and then turned it all the way out and counted how many rotations it was, and then split the difference and turned it back in and then took it out for a drive. And I can tell you right off the bat, I knew that this thing had quite a bit more stopping power, but I still needed to fine tune it. So to do that, I just Googled the Willwood part number of the actual proportioning valve, found their instructions, which you can do on Google, and then just went off of it on how to install it. Everything's labeled on there except for the new one. The new one just comes blank. So plumb it in the same way you would as the Willwood. And then when it comes to adjusting it, follow the instructions of the Willwood version to a T for this model. And I can tell you now, after getting that thing dialed in, I was blown away. I mean, I took this thing out, ripped it down the street, slammed on the brakes, and it locks up all 4 tires. Never in a million years would I have thought that a Jeep Cherokee with 33s on it, factory everything else, is going to lock up the tires, because I've hit the brakes a million times on this thing, on trails, on pavement, on whatever, and it will not lock up the freaking tires. It's crazy. So now by doing this thing will lock them up. I know I've got brakes. It's mind-blowing. So now when you pound on the brakes, the front end will drop down, the rear end will, it's nuts. Like, the response of these things is crazy. Whereas before, when you would slam on the brakes, it would just slowly, gradually come to a stop, probably about 3 foot after you hit a tree or the car in front of you. But I can tell you now, if you're looking at doing this kit, the big upgrade would be the manual proportioning valve. If you put that in, I know it's going to suck, but if you put that in, you will have way better stopping power over the factory units. Just throw those things away. Mine's down there on the floor, about to go in the dumpster. If you're looking at doing the rear disc brake kit, I highly recommend it, but definitely use the manual proportioning valve. Whether you get the Willwood or the Billwood off of Amazon, doesn't matter. They both seem to work just the same. Saves you a lot of money. But definitely throw away the factory proportioning valve and put this one in. Now the downside to putting that in, the location of it. So once again, I no longer have washer fluid to wash the windshield because that was where the bottle went when I originally did this, but now the proportioning valve moves it from where the factory location is over to the other side. I thought about making a whole new bracket and doing all that, but I just wasn't feeling it. It's easier to relocate the bottle for the washer fluid. It's 2 wires and a hose. I can move that to the passenger side, plumb it all back in, and we're back up on the road. So I really hope I covered everything in this first half of the video. Like I said, the second half is going to be the actual installation of it all. There was a few hang-ups with it. Some of the fitments weren't correct, so I kind of had to wallow out a hole or two to get things to bolt on. If you are looking at doing this, I highly recommend it. Definitely go to Quadratec, get their emergency brake cables because it's the correct factory length with the correct fitting on the end so it hooks on. As far as any other parts, I can't think of anything that comes to mind that you would need. You just get the kit. Like I said, I got it through Jegs. It was the cheapest one available, and it's the same kit. It's Crown Automotive. So Jegs, I'm sure Summit Racing, Quadratec, they all sell the Crown Automotive kit. It's just the price is different. And as far as the TerraFlex or Rubicon Express kit, I don't know. Until you can prove to me that that's not a Crown Automotive kit, it's not worth spending over $1,000 for it. If you have that kit, if you bought that kit, drop a comment down below and tell me if anything's different between that and this Crown Automotive kit, because I highly doubt it. The only difference is the price. So the good thing is after I went ahead and ordered the kit and it showed up and I got the discounted price and all that kind of good stuff, about 2 weeks after, I went ahead and I just deleted all the emails, unsubscribed to everything. So now we're back to normal. I got the kit super discounted and now I don't get a ton of emails from them or text messages. Another thing I did when I was putting this thing in, I replaced my outer axle bearings. You don't have to. I did just because I was already in there and I figured it's probably a good time to do it. So that did cost me a little bit more. You'll see that in the video. I did have to buy some tools to do it. I highly recommend if you're gonna do it, get the right tools because it just makes it a 5-minute job rather than a 2-hour job. So yeah, if you're doing the rear disc brake kit, if you wanna do axle bearings, be my guest. It's a perfect time to do it. You've got everything taken apart, you might as well. And you can rent the tools. I prefer just to buy them because down the road, you never know, you might need the tool again. And then just modifying your brake lines. That's gonna be another thing. If you're not good at it, find somebody that can help you do it. Don't just try this out and then hope that it works, because if not, you're not stopping. Also, I did screw up when I was installing this, and I will show it in the video. I actually put the calipers on upside down. I don't know, I didn't catch it. I don't know. But I did when I started bleeding it because I had no brake pedal. So found that issue, flipped the calipers over, and everything's fixed. So when you're watching the video and you see it, you're gonna see it in there for a long time that the calipers were on upside down, but I did go back and correct that issue. So make sure that you put the bleeder on top, not on bottom. But you guys, I've been rambling for long enough. Hopefully ones that usually dip out on this are still here, getting all the info that they need. I'll put down in the description the part numbers and the locations of where I got the stuff, so that'll help you guys out on if you do decide to do this kit. But I can tell you now for sure that this Cherokee will lock up the brakes, and she definitely stops way better than the factory. So as for upgrades, this one here with the completely manual proportioning valve absolutely made a huge difference to the Cherokee. I know now that if I'm out on a trail and I'm on a steep incline or anything like that, or an emergency situation where I got to use the brakes, I know that this thing will stop, because it's hard to describe. I mean, you guys know if you got big tires on a Cherokee and you hit the brakes, there's just no reaction to it. It just slowly slows down. Like you're gonna die. That's all I can say. But now, with it being dialed in, I know that if I need to stop, like this thing, it's gonna do it. So definitely recommend this kit. This is awesome. And I think all in on this kit, you know, minus doing the axle bearings and all that, I'm still like under 600 bucks, I believe, or somewhere around there for the rear brake kit and then the emergency brake cables. It's, yeah, you're probably in the $600, low $600 range. So that's going to do it for me. The second half of this video, like I said, will be the actual installation of it, and I'll kind of do some voiceover stuff in that, kind of describing, you know, issues that I had or what was going on. But you guys, as always, I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. we got a lot of stuff going on. Couple more projects I got to do on the Jeep. I got to get these put in. I bought new Johnny joints for the front to replace the factory crappy rough country ones because it's just too clunky for me. And I want to get this thing completely dialed in so the whole winter time I can use it just for camping. I don't want to have to do any kind of winter projects on it. I want to actually get out and use it. Winter, we're working on this bad boy. Heat a garage in here, so why not? We'll use the renter. We're going to do a lot of work on this, get this thing ready for spring, or not road ready, but at least get it as far as we can get it, I guess. I don't know. We're going to dive all in on it, so I hope you guys stick around for that. But I'm going to let you go. Check out the second half of the video where we install the rear brake kit on this Jeep Cherokee, and yeah, that's going to do it. So, as always, I appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for subscribing, and see you in the next video. 45 foot-pounds for these bolts. Alright, so because O'Reilly's sells the weird looking bearing, we went to AutoZone and O'Reilly's because not everybody had all the stuff in stock. So this is a Duralast from AutoZone. That's the number 8835S. That's the bearing seal that you're going to need. That's from Duralast from AutoZone. This is a Precision from O'Reilly's. I mean, they look identical, so you're not missing out there. And then the bearing itself, 6408 from AutoZone. That's the Duralast brand. You can see here it's a lot different than the one O'Reilly sells. And then for whatever reason, they only had one of the Duralast and one from National Bearing, but it too is identical. So who knows? We got a mixture of parts. We'll get it all in there and get it all working. As far as tools go, highly recommend getting this, the 5-pound slide hammer, and then definitely going to want this to put them in. These are all from Harbor Freight. These work the best. I haven't used that yet, but that's going to work out really good pushing it in. Normally I'll take like the old bearing races and hammer them in with those, but now we have a nice tool for this. So we're going to do that. This was cheap, this was cheap, this was not too expensive, but it was reasonably priced. Don't waste your time on the 2-pound slide hammer. That thing is garbage. So 5-pound slide hammer, axle bearing puller set, and then your race and seal driver set. So 3 tools you're going to need. Harbor Freight, grab you some.
So this part here is what I'm talking about, where the bleeder is actually on the bottom when it should be right up here on the top. That will definitely give you issues when you go to bleed the brakes. You'll just have no brake pressure. So this is the part of the brake setup I was talking about, where running the new brake lines, it's just going to be different for everybody. However you decide to do it works fine. This way here just works pretty much how I wanted it. Kept everything up out of the way. Using these tabs here to kind of center everything and hold it in place. And then I just drilled a small hole through the perch plate and the bracket to hold it all still. What I'm doing here is just making sure that the caliper is able to slide completely front to back and not have any interference with the leaf springs, the perch plates, because I definitely don't want the brake line rubbing a hole, chafing on it, and then leaking out fluid. So these here are the new e-brake cables, and as you can see, they are perfect match length, direct fit. The best thing is they have the new ends on them, so they'll hook right onto the e-brakes, and you can eliminate any issues of having to use zip ties or whatever weird crazy concoction people on the internet usually come up with. So that's the new fitting right there on the left. That's the old one on the right. So one thing I did different on this job was I ran the e-brake cables a little different than the actual factory setup, just to keep everything up out of the way, make sure it doesn't grab on any tree branches or something or low-hanging stuff. You can see right here, the old shock took quite a beating from the cable actually rubbing on it. You'll have to go back and check the archives because I actually did a video a while ago and replaced the master cylinder with one out of a Dodge Durango and also replaced the brake booster with a new model. So I think the combination of the new proportioning valve and all those other brake components really set this thing off to be an ultimate stopping vehicle now. So the neat thing about the proportioning valve is you can actually run two separate lines down to your front brakes. I also decided not to do that. It was just a lot easier for me to tee off one fitting into the bottom for the front that then divides out through that splitter to go to the two front brakes. I checked with the instruction manual. It says you are totally okay with doing that, but it is the option if you want. You can run each front brake line independent to the proportioning valve. If you decide to use the single port on the proportioning valve, you will have to get a brake line fitting plug for the port that you will not be using. A standard plug will not work. You must get a brake line fitting plug. So we got one final look over everything. Now that everything is in correctly, calipers are on the correct way, everything's bled out perfect. I gotta tell you, this setup is awesome. Now I did notice when I first started doing it, you can see here the front side pad was not making full contact with the rotor, and I think that was just with the pressures without having that proportioning valve in. And since then, all pads are wearing evenly, and everything's working great. Here's the brake line that I made by myself. Kind of proud of that because, like I said, I'm not very good at running brake lines and flaring and all that. I have gotten better over the time to doing it. You can see right there it's a little goofy, but it all works. I put the shielding on it that was on the original lines to keep everything nice and protected. But I'm really happy with it. This kit's been awesome. And checking this one off the books, we finally got a Cherokee that can stop. And I hope you all enjoyed the video.